And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that, and you'll have it right there in your phone. You can pop us in whenever you want to, and you can always go check us out at jbandgoldwatershow.com. Listen to us anywhere in the world. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line, and you can get a hold of us there. If you want to send us a note, do it. We'll make you a part of our show, just like three guests today will be. Mike Morgan at 12:30 with ESPN and the SEC Network. Going to get into expectations with him with some of the programs in the Southeastern Conference. That includes South Carolina, who, by the way, has just wrapped up practice. We'll get some updates on them coming up here shortly. At 1:05 today, how about Cory McCartney on the first place Atlanta Braves? There's an argument that could be made. They're the hottest team in baseball. The argument is the record that they've posted over the last couple of weeks. I know they haven't played the strongest schedule, but they're still pretty hot. We'll get his thoughts on that and more. And then at 1:30 this afternoon, Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier. He will pop in. Plenty to get to with Gene. He's been out for a while, so excited to get him back as we keep steamrolling our way towards football season. We've got some practice notes, as I mentioned, for Carolina. Tim Tebow. Monty Lee has made an interesting hire. We'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. Field of Dreams 22 is out. Not a video game, no. But the matchup next year in Dyersville, Iowa. So it's a nice agenda. Yes, Clint, it is soggy outside. I'm hoping that I stay on the air here because the way that the thunder is rolling, as Garth Brooks once said, Darren, it sounds like there's a big storm about to blow me over here. What's up?
Yeah, so we've been having like window rattling thunder for most of the morning. It started, I don't know, around 7 o'clock is when I started hearing it. But last night we had our fact and fee night at a local elementary school, and I got to meet, as you call them, the original 1-9. I saw those curls down a hallway. I was like, that's gotta be Flint. So I went, introduced myself. We had all of about a second to say, oh, hey, haven't actually seen each other in person before. So it was good to meet another Fro Club member. His puts mine to shame.
Yeah, that's been his calling card for a long time. The curls of Michael Flint, they last a lifetime. There's no doubt about that. Well, I'm glad you got to see the original 1-9. That's what we dubbed him a long time ago. He doesn't like it, but he's going to keep it.
That's all right. I'll say this, though, about the elementary school. I love the school, but I guess it hadn't been painted in a while, so they recently painted it. Almost everything is white. It feels like you're walking around in an insane asylum. You have no idea where you're going. Everything's just white all around you. It's weird.
My experience with school, I was walking around in an insane asylum. It felt like, at least, but so you'll see him more often. That's good. Y'all can fuss and discuss the Gamecocks together in Penn State.
Yeah.
All right, look, we can't go any further. I need help. not in the way in which you think I need help. So I'm seriously contemplating making the switch from Dish Network, which I've had for 6 years, never really had a problem with. Recently, so all of our boxes are wireless, which is awesome because you don't have cords and all that. But at the same time, sometimes because it's wireless, they'll like kind of reboot themselves on their own randomly. Not that it's the biggest deal in the world. I mean, but they will. And you know, at the end of the day, it's just more. You know, you pay a little more now. I could renegotiate and get another price lower, which was fine. But so last night I started getting into this YouTube TV thing. All right, so here's what I did. I subscribed to a 14-day free trial.
Yep.
So I'm just going to test it out for the next few days. Luckily, it's a bunch of weather. Make sure my internet isn't going to crap out on me out of nothing. See how easy it is for me to use. See how much my wife bitches and moans about it, or if she does. That's important to me. I tweeted out last night. I got a bunch of responses, like 15 or 20 responses, and pretty much everybody who responded basically, I think, has YouTube TV, and they all said, do it, which obviously if you have something, you generally are probably more prone to promote it. All right, so I know you have, and I'm inviting everybody, as my cousin says, all 3 people listening to this show, chime in with what you know. If it's bad, tell me. If it's good, tell me. Whatever issues you've had, tell me. I know you have it, and you love it. Why do you love it?
I have been, let's say it's been about 3 years. I've been a YouTube TV unpaid ambassador because as soon as now you've done the right thing. You've got the free trial. So now it's time to figure out how it works to make sure that everyone is pleased with it. If it's anything like my house, I had a 2-week free trial. My wife was so stubborn that she didn't want to try it, but I was messing. She was still using DirecTV. I'm like, just try this. It's free. And then she didn't until I finally said, look, it's good, and this is what we're going to do. And she did not complain. So her first indoctrination into the whole thing was, sorry, I cut DirecTV, and now we've got YouTube TV. The only downside is that there isn't a way to like plug in 216 or 219 for like the SEC network or something like that. Those are DirecTV numbers. You have to kind of scroll through and hit it. But it's very easy to jump from channel to channel. You can put your own channel guide together. You can have different channel guides for you and your wife. You have unlimited DVR. You can watch it wherever you go. So whenever I'm on the road doing a game, like I've had YouTube TV on my computer in a booth with me at football games and at basketball games, just kind of put it over there on the side, watching something else. You can do that on your phone. You could do that in your hotel room. You could do that in your house if someone is watching it and you want to watch something else. It's got all the channels you want. It's the best streaming service for sports, bar none. It's got everything. Yeah, but you don't have that anyway right now.
I know. Well, that's the thing. It's not like I'm losing the Braves because I don't have them.
Right. So sooner or later, some way, somehow, that should get fixed. You'd think by baseball because they got to fix that problem. But if that's the only downside and you don't have them right now anyway, then it's a no-brainer.
All right. So Don C says get YouTube TV. It's awesome. But I need to know why. I guess his handle here is Turd Ferguson. That's funny. All right. So Will says I have Hulu Plus Live TV, but had YouTube in best. It is very good. Only downside is no Valley Sports. Again, yeah, it's right because I don't have it. Tyler said it's good. Not sure about your wife. All right, so the Wi-Fi thing this is what's scared me. I know people don't care to listen to our show sometimes when we're talking about our own issues around here, but I'm asking for help. We entertain you for 2 hours a day. Y'all can help me for a few minutes. So that was my issue. So we have a 3-story house, okay, and the internet, the what's it called, the modem, router, whatever, is in the room, the Frog, okay, over the garage, and so but our TV downstairs, that's mounted over the fireplace, that's had issues getting like good internet service because it just didn't really stretch. I didn't have a ton of issues up here. I've had some here and there. But what I did last week was I invested in the mesh system, the Deco mesh system. So now I have a box upstairs on the 3rd floor. I have a box that's connected to the router on the 2nd floor, which disperses it. And then I have one that's downstairs. So they all kind of overlap. And so downstairs, like my internet speed test was getting like, I think 70 or 80 megabytes or whatever per second, which is like 60 faster than it was. Upstairs, it's like literally 200. And on the main floor, obviously, it's flying. And then I have a TV outside on the porch. But that's right there next to this mesh system. So I should be good, right? For all the tech geeks, 60, 70 megabytes per second. That's pretty good, right?
Well, the good thing is, you can sit there and say, yeah, that's good. You have a 2-week free trial. And you've got days like today when internet can be spotty at times and you've got awful weather out there. So this is your time. You've got 2 weeks to test this thing and to see how well it works. I have ridiculously good internet in this house. That was a priority when we moved in. When we dropped DirecTV, I kept our fiber internet because it's
you have AT&T, right?
Yeah, we have the fiber internet. It's as good as
that's what we have.
Okay, so it's as good as we can get, and I have it hardwired up into where I'm doing the show right now. I have the YouTube TV in the living room hardwired into that as well. It worked perfectly on Wi-Fi before I did that, but I'm just a nerd, so I hardwired it anyway.
Yeah, but you did that to make sure you wouldn't lose it, right? You're watching a Penn State game, and all of a sudden,
I didn't lose it anyway. Okay. I did it because I started running it up to the office up here, and I was like, well, if it's going to be this easy, I may as well do it over there. So I did, and hoped that it would help some of the sound and the surround sound, which was perfect anyway, and is still perfect. Again, nerd. So now, though, is your time to test out the Wi-Fi. Supposedly it works very well with like average Wi-Fi. I don't know that because we have very good Wi-Fi, but if I'm on my phone in the house or if I'm on a computer or a tablet in the house, it works perfect.
I mean, I didn't have any problems last night. It hasn't had a problem this morning. I see Adam's comment here. Don't use pods from cable providers. They suck. They steal the signal from one area and move it to another. I don't even know what that is. I got this mesh system. It's a Best Buy mesh system. I actually ordered it from Amazon, but it's Best Buy. They contract together apparently. It's called a Deco, which I would show it to you, but I can't reach it. And it seemingly is working fantastic. I mean, we literally could. It's this thing's like, dude, you could have like 20 devices streaming at one time, and you should be perfectly fine. And with the mesh system, like if there's an area that's maybe a little bit limited in coverage, you just buy another one. And then that one just connects to it basically, but it's supposed to not drop megabytes or whatever it is that they're sending back and forth in that signal. So it like I said, it appears to be in good shape. What I've done upstairs where in my office, which is where I am now, breaking news to everybody. What I've done up here is plug the mesh system directly into my feed that you and I do our show on. And I have like literally 250 megabytes per second. Like it's lightning fast. So I thought, well, if I'm downstairs watching a football game, a Carolina game or something like that, and if for some off the wall reason there appears to be an issue, I'll just plug the Ethernet line into it and I shouldn't have any problem.
Yes, exactly. So you can go directly in. As the only thing that'll kill you there is obviously if you lose power, you're going to lose internet.
So if I lose power, I was going to lose TV anyways.
Exactly. Now your phone, you could still pull it up using your LTE or 5G or whatever you want.
We have horrible coverage in this house.
Well, right.
We have a Verizon booster system in this house. It's so bad.
Okay, so what you need to do during this free trial is experiment with. I think they give you 3 or 5 simultaneous streams. I think it's 3 simultaneous streams of your one account and like 5 different endless DVRs. So what you need to do is this week, you go out on the porch, the wife do something, set up a computer and put them all on YouTube TV, all in separate places of the house, and make sure they're all running perfectly.
Okay.
And my bet is that they are. And once that happens, it's like, what's the decision? Just go tell them, like, here, checkbook. Okay.
All right. This is starting to make a little more sense to me. One of our TVs upstairs is it's one of the better TVs, but it's a little bit older, so I don't think I can download the YouTube TV app to that, but I just plug in the Fire Stick and just use the Fire Stick.
You could plug in a Fire Stick and do that very, very easily. You could plug your computer with an HDMI cord directly into your TV as well. I'll do that sometimes up here with this TV that has a Fire Stick in the office, but sometimes, again, if I really want to nerd out, I will HDMI go hardwired direct from my computer, which is hardwired into the TV, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, it's, I saw Tony Schufo last night responded to and said that he's signed into like 6 or 7 accounts at one time and he hadn't had any issues. He just picks them up and goes. So,
yeah.
So you can stay, but you can run 3 simultaneously at one time is what they're saying.
Yes.
But you can be signed into a bunch, but they know if you're using or not using each one, right?
We only have the one account, but it's super rare that we're even using 3. And if we are on 3, we're certainly not on 4. There's only 3 people in this family. So we're not using 4 different devices actually on YouTube TV. So that's a problem.
I guess like what my thought is again, this is everybody thinks that this is just, so we can watch Home Improvement on a Wednesday night in February. Wrong. I base these decisions around are they not going to work during football season? Because if it doesn't work during football season, it doesn't work, period. The end. It's over. The conversation's done. So what I'm getting at here is if I have 2 TVs running together to watch football, and then maybe there's for some reason my wife is upstairs and the kids are in the room of the garage. That's 4, but I guess one of those could be on ESPN Plus, and I wouldn't even be using YouTube TV.
All right. So last football season, I showed you pictures of my setup downstairs, and this was YouTube TV. So I had the main TV up top. That was YouTube TV. Then I had the 2 bigger, smaller, but I don't know, 32, 40-inch TVs that I'd bring downstairs under the main TV. And I would stream either YouTube TV or like the ESPN app if I was going off an SEC network or something like that. I'd stream that to one place, and then I would use YouTube TV so I had 3 going like right there at times perfectly.
Okay. I'm trying it.
And again, I am a tech nerd.
Oh, I know that.
Right. Years of doing games. I want things to look and sound perfectly. I don't want them to look and sound okay or good or like really good and no one can tell the difference. I need it perfect to my standards. And this is good enough for me.
Okay. All right. So I'm giving this a shot. Terrell, there's another I tweeted JB last night. Try that. Well, which one are you talking about? I can't even go back and find my tweet from last night. Let me know what you're talking about because I want to get this figured out. The 2-week trial. We're not gonna run the distance on this 2-week trial because that's getting too close to football. Like I gotta have it. I gotta have this done. So I'm looking at getting this done like now. All right, cool. Well, if any of you have had a bad experience with YouTube TV, will you please send that to me? I would appreciate that. 12:19 on this Tuesday afternoon, geeking out here to start a rainy day on the JB and Goldwater show. Mike Morgan, Cory McCartney, and Gene Sapakoff in succession on our program. Coming up next year in 2022, 2022. I see Don said, just listen to Darren Goldwater. He's spitting facts. Yeah, I have to pick and choose when I listen to Darren. There are days that Darren is wrong. So I can't always listen to Darren. I got to have backup here. No, I'm just kidding. Darren is.
You're probably right, but I mean, if you want to talk this I'm right about.
Yeah. No, it seems that way. You've told me before. My fear again, not to beat a dead horse here. or our friend Blind Squirrel Sports to beat a blind squirrel. Is my fear is what happens if the internet goes out and I can't watch the game? Because if I have TV and I have internet and TV goes out, I can still watch the game on the internet. But I don't have a backup if the internet goes out. It's over.
Yes, that is true. And because your coverage, cell signal wise is bad, that is true. But you're on Dish. We used to have DirecTV. So yeah, that signal can go out. The reason I have the internet that I have, the only thing that's going to knock that out is a power outage. That's it. It's the only thing that's going to knock that out. Like we won't, our internet will not be affected by storms today at all.
Well, hope we're not. We're thinking about making the move here. We'll see. 12:21 on this Tuesday afternoon. Field of Dreams Part 2 next year. Cincinnati and Chicago. The Cubbies are going to make an appearance over there in Dyersville, Iowa. And so are the Cincinnati Reds. I think so I like the premise of this. It was such a beautiful scene. Really excited that they're going to continue to do this. I just, like I think you said it on Monday, maybe, or I think you might have said it yesterday, or maybe you said it Friday. Don't try to duplicate it. Just, come up with something else or whatever you need to. Playing it there is fine, but don't necessarily try to duplicate what you like. You can't have Kevin Costner walk out of the corn stalks again. That's not going to work.
No, but the game itself works because there's enough feels, there's enough nostalgia with the movie and with just the location, and you'll see that image of the lights lined up to get to the field. There's enough nostalgia right there to make it cool, and you're playing in a cornfield and hitting home runs into corn, so there's enough there to make it cool. To do a whole, like MLB Network was there for a couple of days, and then the pregame show that hour long, that won't work. But to keep this going, why not? I mean, it's a ratings home run because the generation that loves the movie is all about this. Why not?
Yeah, I saw there was a piece written in the Barrett Sports Media Journal or whatever you call that about how this was a fail for baseball. They did was project themselves and towards an audience that they already had and this and the other. I thought that was such a bunch of crap. In baseball, you have to be able to tie the future with the past in baseball. The future of the sport needs to know about the past of the sport. Period. The end. When somebody writes an article like that, well, you're only promoting yourselves to somebody that you already had. You have to go after these new young viewers and this, that, and the other. So that means that we can't honor the game with maybe the greatest baseball movie ever. There was nothing wrong with what happened. That's just somebody complaining just to complain. I thought it was a horrible article. Don't read it if you haven't. And we've had this conversation before, Darren and I. Yeah, that they have to continue to grow the sport at a younger level, but that doesn't necessarily mean at the 20-year-old level who's on social media all day. It does, but you also have to go like younger. Like we need kids seeing baseball, and when somebody sees the Field of Dreams game and he's 12 and he goes, why are they doing this? Mom and dad need to be able to explain that to them. Like that's how this ties in, at least in my eyes.
I saw the article and thought of you immediately when I read the article because what he's saying is fine and true, but that wasn't the point of the game. Right. Like the point of the game wasn't to grow the audience to where they're severely lacking. That wasn't the point of the game. The point of the game was to hit all the feels for us and for, probably the generation ahead of us. They can figure out, I hope they can figure out the other issues on how to grow the game and how to give alternate options, how to consume the game to the changing dynamics. They can still do that. That's not what this was. This was a huge success. It was the highest rated regular season baseball game in either 16 or 19 years. This was a massive success. It didn't help them where they need help, but it's still a massive success. Both things can be true.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, baseball has, you can't just like, the society has gotten into this all or nothing mentality with pretty much everything we do. You should drive a truck. No, you can't drive trucks. Trucks aren't good for you. Well, maybe a truck is good for you if you need one. It can all be true. Like, they need to promote themselves to the generation that loves baseball. The last thing baseball needs to do is forget about the generation that they have. Like, don't forget the audience that's there. You know, if you just start promoting yourself, focusing on your efforts on a group that isn't there, there's no guarantee you're going to get them anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever leave behind the people that are already there. Worry about the ones who support you. Yes, you got to grow, and you got to come up with ideas on how to grow. And last week, I thought was a brilliant idea of how to do that. You know, so yeah, it was a garbage piece. It was a, you know, clickbait in my opinion. But you know, I hope they do continue to do this. I hope they come up with other ways to tie the history of this sport. It's one of the things in America that constantly is forgotten in all fronts of what we do is history. You need to know where you came from to get where you're going. Baseball has the best history ever because it was America's pastime. It was America's pastime. Let me say this one more time. It was America's, still is, America's pastime. Baseball's been here longer than anything else in sports. We need to understand why baseball was so beloved by everybody and how we got to where we are. And these people need to know. And going through movies is fine if you get it right. And they got it right. They got it right with Field of Dreams, Darren. I was a huge fan of that. So looking forward to next year's game. I don't know if there's a date. Is there a date on it yet?
August. It's in August. I forget the exact date, but it is August.
Okay. But back in Dyersville, Iowa, it's going to be neat. Yeah, Margot was on the phone with JC for a little while before the show, and certainly know that news is out there on Ricky Sandage. We're going to try to get an update on that at some point in time today, if that can be confirmed or not confirmed. That would be a broken leg for Ricky Sandage, a defensive lineman with South Carolina, and he was expected to be a heavy contributor this year, if not at some point in time, maybe even a starter. So we're not sure necessarily on where things stand there. JC Sherbert, of course, did put on the Big Spur. He believes that to be the case. Let's also remember, this is nothing against JC at all. Has nothing to do with him. There was some bad information that came out on Luke Doty this weekend, and that had to get corrected. So we're gonna hold off on anything until it's confirmed by the staff as to what the prognosis is and what that will mean. But we'll certainly keep our eyes on that. Good news for Gamecock football, according to an email that I received at 11:22 this morning, is that the Gamecocks have set a record for new season ticket holders coming into 2021. So far, 8,370 new season tickets have been sold for this year. That's a tremendous accomplishment. Gamecock fans should pat themselves on the back. Right around 40,000 right now season tickets sold for the year, which again is another pretty sensational accomplishment considering coming out of the pandemic or coming out of a pandemic season, still in a pandemic. There are obviously people who have still chosen not to renew those for whatever reasons that may be. So well over half the ballpark this year will be season ticket holders. And that's not even including students and things like that. So that's a great accomplishment for Carolina football. They are still trying to get to 9,004 new season tickets. It's part of the 9-4 challenge, which of course is the date of the first game. So trying to get another 700 or so sold before the next couple of weeks. But that's good news for South Carolina. Up at Clemson, Monty Lee has hired Matt Heath as a special assistant to the head coach. Heater, as they call him, former head coach at the College of Charleston, former assistant coach at the College of Charleston to Monty. Some folks may know his story. Matt didn't end well at the college. Not going to get into all that. There's two sides to every story. And at the end of the day, it's, Matt moved on to do other things. College of Charleston certainly has Chad Holbrook now in place. And Heath is going to be back in the Palmetto State. I know he spent some time at UT Martin, and he's going to be back up there with an old friend, Monty Lee. I've known Heater a long time. He's a hell of a baseball coach. And so this is a great move for Monty and for the Clemson baseball program. They look to be totally reloading for 2022. Heath is only going to help him do that. So that's going to be a pretty neat addition up there in Tiger Town. And a subtraction, though, in Jacksonville. Tim Tebow released this morning by the Jaguars organization. It appears his football career is over. It also appears, I guess, that Tim Tebow is going to be back full-time on the SEC network, at least with SEC Nation on Saturday mornings.
Have they announced that?
I don't think they've officially announced it. I think it's kind of been the thought all along, was if he didn't make it in football, he's coming back. That's kind of what I heard.
It's there's a ton of speculation there because he can do whatever he wants to do. So if he wants that, great, go for it. I mean, his options are limitless. I wouldn't say limitless. The limit is the NFL. That's not happening.
Yeah. No, that's it's not happening. It looks like the NFL is over. But they're not going to cut Travis Etienne or Trevor Lawrence. Both those guys are going to continue to be there. I see you, Jamie. You know I am too, brother. Look forward to seeing you at Williams-Brice this year. All right. I had somebody the other day who was like, so are you going to sit in your seats or are you going to sit in the press box? I said, no. I ain't credentialing myself to sit upstairs. I love Steve and the Gamecocks and all those guys that we know so well up there. But now I'll sit down where I've been sitting with my family for 25 years. All right, got to hit a timeout. Mic'd up with Mike Morgan in Hot Atlanta. Speaking of the Braves, Cory McCartney, he's also in Hot Atlanta. 2 guests today in Atlanta. We should just move the show there. But Mike's up first right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with 0 down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive. It's interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen and Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest and easiest way to sell your car. Make enough money for your trade. Because we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
1666 per month for $1,000 for 15 months at 0% APR with 0 down plus tax tag. Includes $499 for the specialist. Subject to BCI credit. Expires Monday.
That sounds awesome.
It's Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, featuring once again local caught and breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 12:34 Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Before we get Mike in here, let me pass along some updates from Shane Beamer up in Columbia, South Carolina. First of all, Zeb Nolan was a grad assistant. They have pulled that title off of him and moved him onto the field as a player. Who is Zeb Nolan? Former quarterback at Iowa State. Last year transferred to North Dakota State. He was a backup to Trey Lance. Came to South Carolina as a GA. Thought his playing career was going to be over. It's not. He's got a year of eligibility left. Shane Beamer said that actually this guy's played in a game more recently than anybody on this team. So they have moved him onto the field. It will provide some QB depth. Shane says he's not concerned necessarily with the QB room, but with the injury to Doty, they got to have some depth there. Obviously, we know about DeCarrion Joyner practicing at quarterback as well. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Looking for an update on Ricky Standage. EJ Jenkins out of practice today with a personal issue. He will be back soon though, but did not practice. So 12:35 Tuesday afternoon. Hey, the good news though, Mike. So nobody goes in meltdown mode here. Shane said it was probably the best practice of the preseason for the Gamecocks. Hey, Mike.
Good afternoon, guys.
How are you?
I'm well. It's raining like Noah's Ark over here, but other than that, doing well.
Well, it's almost football season. Did Shane catch you off guard this weekend with the we have a hell of a football team, this is bull crap comments?
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah. Well, I think, look, I think the frustration sets in, and Shane's going to go through some of the same things that Will Muschamp went through and some of the same things that Steve Spurrier went through his last year and a half, and that is that, first off, and they were just talking about this on Sirius XM about how those 3-11-win seasons really set the bar to a point where you have a good portion of the fan base that truly believes that should be kind of normal. And there's a boiling over frustration level of where the program has been the last few years. And no matter who took this job, they were going to feel some of the pressure of that. And so there is this woe is me sometimes that comes out. And I felt that when I was there, like, it's just like, we are just doomed to bad things. And I think Shane is truly trying to change that mindset. So, okay, Luke Doty is down. Like, that sucks, obviously. And we don't have an established quarterback behind him. That sucks, obviously. But let's not pretend like we just got to turn the lights off and bag the year because Luke Doty might not be there. First off, we don't know how effective Luke Doty is going to be. He is a very talented athlete. We don't know if he's a very talented passer, which is why this hurts even more because, quite frankly, if anybody needs the reps, it is him. But all that being said, I mean, I get it. It's like, hey, enough of this doom and gloom stuff around here. We're not the only program in America that's going to have a quarterback that gets injured in practice. Let's move on.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mike, because Will Muschamp had some testy moments as the head coach at South Carolina. He's had plenty of those his whole career, really. But he came in with that I don't know what you call it, ambiance or whatever you want to call it. Like, people knew that Will Muschamp had a chip. They knew that he could, from time to time, I don't want to use the word explode. That's a little dramatic, but he could have a moment, and we would all be talking about it. Shane has spent the last 9 months or so positive, taking photos with people in the grocery store, signing Miss Johnson's Dotson, all these things, all these feel good moments. And now that the lights are turning on and it's time to play football. And he had a strikingly different tone this weekend to at least open that press conference. I was watching it going, wow, this is something we haven't seen from him just yet. But it's different with the fan base because he didn't come in with that. Will did come in with that, also had a track record of losing. Seems like people are actually embracing this much more than they did at all with Coach Muschamp.
Well, first off, isn't it funny? Like, I think fans feel that, if you're throwing your hat and your headset and your clipboard and you're yelling and screaming at the refs, you're engaged, you're really into it. And the more subdued, laid back coach, I don't see the passion that I want. Well, Will Muschamp did not lack passion, and at times he did not lack rage, but that wasn't enough, and that's not the solution here. And Shane needs to be who he is, which is not that guy personality-wise. Mm-hmm. Shane is a more calm, cool, collected guy, which, quite frankly, is in a lot of ways what Steve was. I mean, Steve's biggest weapon was his wit, his caustic tone, but he wasn't a true rah-rah, go ape blank over a bad call or if something doesn't go his way. I mean, throwing of the visor was about as animated as Steve got. And that became less and less with age with Steve, certainly less and less of that in Columbia than in Gainesville. Shane that's his demeanor is much more like his dad's, quite frankly. Like, hey, I got this. We're in control. Some things are going to go our way. Some things are not, but it is a process. So, ultimately all of that means nothing because fans are just going to react based on wins and losses, right? And, you assume you can win week 1 and then you see what's going to happen with East Carolina. And then you can see what's going to happen with another daunting SEC slate. And that's going to dictate how people feel about Shane and everything else. I mean, if you're realistic, Vegas doesn't deal with emotions. Vegas doesn't care how many games Carolina wins. And they've got the over-under around 4.
Right.
And I think that's a fairly realistic number. Me personally, I would take the over, but I can understand why it is where it is. So, we'll just see. I think in a season where obviously you want to win as many games as you can, you want to go to a bowl game, I think the number one thing I'd like to see out of this team, because 2022 is going to tell a greater story, is truly establish a quarterback that can play at this level and be your guy for the next few years. At times it looked like Helinski could be that guy. It wasn't. At times last year, you said, well, and Luke Doty, he's got glimpses, but it's still a big incomplete. There's been since Connor Shaw left, there's been a quarterback void for the most part in Columbia. And South Carolina is not unlike any other school in this league in particular, but college football as a whole. If you don't have that position squared away, you're really fighting an uphill battle. Because I think Carolina will continue to recruit good running backs. You'll see good wide receivers coming in, good players on the defensive side of the ball, linemen. But you got to figure things out under center, and that's going to be a 12-game process, no doubt, because nothing is figured out right now. But they're not alone. There's other teams in the SEC that I promise you are in the same boat.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, on Sunday, about this situation with Luke, and it does appear he's going to be back. I would say, without a doubt, within a month, but maybe by the first week, who knows? But the conversation kind of turned to, which you can look at this any way you want to. These are the type of situations you're in when you screw around with your quarterback room. So that's a very broad statement, right? Because we don't know what it was like day in and day out in the QB room in Columbia, South Carolina. But we do know that only a couple of years ago, you had four-star quarterbacks in there, 4 of them.
Name those again.
Well, you had Jake Bentley, and you had Ryan Helinski, and you had Carrion Joyner. Well, I guess 3, and then you had one on the way, and Luke Doty.
Mm-hmm.
So, just less than 2 short years ago, it appeared that the future at South Carolina at QB was really good. I mean, this is before Jake got hurt. This is before Ryan stepped in and played the large majority of the 2019 season. He, of course, got hurt that year too. They didn't really know what to do yet with the Carrion Joyner. I mean, but it just felt like, well, nonetheless, something's going to work out. One of these guys, but within the next couple of years, he's going to be killing it.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Well, the amazing thing was Jake Bentley never got better, and we'll see how he does now at South Alabama. He just never got better. Like, he peaked as a freshman, which is hard to do. Ryan Helinski, I might have shared this with you guys last year. When I had the game Carolina against Missouri, and we were on the conference call and with Coach Boba. Remember, he was the interim at that time. And I just asked him an by the way question at the end of the conference call about Helinski.
Yeah.
And he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, look, I know who can play in this league and who can't. And I'll leave it at that. It's like, wow. I mean, that was just Just an absolute, that's his way of saying the kid can't play at this level. And I don't know how accurate that is or not because I'm not there and I haven't seen enough of them. But all 4-star quarterbacks are not built the same. Let's put it that way. I don't care how many stars they have next to them. They haven't had a difference maker at that position in a while.
Yeah. Dylan Thompson.
Yeah,
Dylan Thompson.
Right. And Dylan was a good college quarterback. I mean, even Dylan Thompson, I would never accuse him of being an all SEC type quarterback, but he's good.
Yeah.
You know, what they could use is like a Sam Howell, you know, like what they could use is Matt Corral. I mean, what they could do. I mean, but these are not prominent programs. Ole Miss got Corral. North Carolina got Howell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not all playing for Alabama and Georgia, right? There are some pretty darn good quarterbacks, even at the FCS level right now, that are shining. And Carolina needs to get one of those. And sometimes nowadays you get those in the transfer market. But then you look at us. I mean, you look at like a Joey Gatewood. I couldn't help but see this the other day.
Yeah.
Joey Gatewood, all world. I don't know how many stars next to him. I guarantee there's at least 4.
Yep.
And he goes to Auburn, can't hold on to the job.
Mm.
Goes to Kentucky, can't beat out a transfer that barely played quarterback at Penn State. And when he did, he basically ran. So it's still a hard position to recruit. You're going on 17-year-old footage. And so for every slam dunk, like there's certain kids you just know coming out like that ain't going to miss. But most of them, they're hit or miss. And Carolina has missed more than they've hit here of late.
Is it more recruiting or is it more development? Because like JB just pointed out, I mean, there have been guys with stars. So it's not just one guy looking at them and evaluating them and saying, hey, you're really good. We're going to give you a bunch of stars. Obviously, these kids have talent. Obviously, Gatewood has talent for whatever reason. Maybe it's mental. Maybe you really aren't as good at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it more about development? Is it more about who that OC is and the quarterback coach and maybe to maybe a lesser extent the head coach when you get on campus?
Well, when you go to multiple spots and you can't hold on to the job, I think that's more a you problem than a development problem, right? Like,
I would agree.
You know, Jake Bentley is on yet another program, and I'm not piling on Jake. I think Jake did some good things. I think you can win some games with Jake, but the problem with Jake Bentley wasn't development at Carolina. The problem with Jake Bentley was he just reached his ceiling. Wasn't an awful quarterback by any means. He just wasn't next level. And, you know, obviously Steve Spurrier's a Hall of Fame offensive mind. You don't just replace him. And I think Will Muschamp, when he looks back at his time at Carolina, he's really going to second guess himself on the coordinators he hired. He has really got to look at that and say, what the hell was I doing? Because you can't just hire guys based on what you think will be good recruiters. At some point, they've got to develop talent, and they've got to call plays. And some of the hiring there was beyond mysterious. But all that being said, maybe Ryan Helinski goes – where is he now? I forgot.
Northwestern.
Yeah, maybe he lights the world on fire at Northwestern. Or maybe it turns out he's just an average talent quarterback. And if that's the case, and you can look at him and you can look at Jake Bentley, you know, McElwain wound up playing baseball. He was a highly touted kid. What did he do anywhere at quarterback? Nothing. So, you know, you've got to run here. And we've seen this before. I mean, it's like you had Tannehill and then what? You know, A1 was a super talented physical guy, but didn't have a banner career under Brad Scott. And Phil Petty had 2 good years. And then Dondriel Pinkins, Corey Jenkins.
Into Blake Mitchell.
Blake Mitchell, disappointment, I would say.
If he just could have been focused. If he just could have focused, I've known Blake a long time. He would tell you this. If he could have dialed it in every day, he could have been anything he wanted to be under Coach Spurrier, man.
Yeah, Blake, and I think you could say some of the same things about Steven Garcia. I mean, I think there was a focus, maturity thing there. Both those guys had some arm talent now. Yeah. And Garcia had some more than that, quite frankly. And he's honest about it. I mean, Steven Garcia's on a lot of radio shows now, and he'll tell you, like, I screwed up some stuff. I could have done more with what I was blessed with. But you just haven't had this. You haven't had this consistent stable of quality quarterbacks come through Columbia of late. You just haven't. And I don't know if Doty's that guy. I don't know if one of those guys that you're going to see September the 4th is one of those guys. I mean, I don't know if any of us know the answer to that question.
No, it's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, because you go back to Dylan and you're right. I mean, there was nothing flashy necessarily about Dylan. He had a cup of tea on the practice squads in the NFL. Did set school records his lone year as a starter in 2014, throwing the football. If that 2014 team had anything that resembled defense, they'd have won 10 games again, or 11 games for that matter. They threw, if everybody remembers, they blew 2 touchdown leads in the fourth quarter. Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, and that's how they wound up at 7-6.
Wouldn't it be nice though, like to just have one guy that's good enough to play in the NFL?
I know. Well, and that's the thing. Is like Dylan and Connor. I mean, Mike. You weren't at South Carolina anymore, but you covered these guys before they became starters. Was Connor Shaw or Dylan Thompson 2-star out of Boiling Springs, South Carolina? Were those guys on your radar to be the next big things under Steve Spurrier? No.
Right. Connor Shaw was the ultimate overachiever. I mean, that kid got everything out of his God-given ability. Major respect to him. I mean, he was, talk about guts, talk about all those intangibles. He had it. And the fact that he even had a cup of coffee in the NFL speaks to that, because Connor Shaw didn't have the measurables, the size, the arm. I mean, he didn't have what the NFL scouts look for, but he had everything else off the charts good. But again, I mean, Missouri gets a Drew Lock every 10 years. Now they got Connor Bazelak, who's a good-looking quarterback. A&M gets talented quarterbacks. Maybe that's not the best example because they're clearly on the rise. Arkansas has had bits and pieces of really talented quarterbacks.
I mean, Ole Miss,
Mississippi. Well, I mentioned, Corral. Mississippi State got Dak Prescott, and Kentucky. I think South Carolina and Kentucky are almost on a similar quarterback path.
I'd throw Tennessee in there too. Tennessee, you feel like they should have a guy every year, and they don't either.
Absolutely. I mean, they used to.
Yeah.
And then
it's a pot of gold thing, though. I mean, that's what everyone in college. It's not just reserved down here for South Carolina or in teams in the SEC. Right? I mean, that's what every program is looking for. They're looking for maybe one guy every 5-10 years to come through who can be a Dak Prescott, right? It's not a Trevor Lawrence necessarily, but a stud. I mean, I hear that from the Penn State fan base all the time. That's what's going to take them over the top. Okay, when's that going to happen? I mean, so that's most fan bases right now.
Yeah, and again, the thing that helps. I mean, look, Carolina has a lot going for it. It's an attractive place to go. But clearly, you're not going to just get your pick of the litter. 5-star quarterbacks aren't around the country going, I want to go to Columbia, but you get those 3-star kids that turn out to be 5-star quarterbacks, and they're out there. And then now with the transfer portal and no penalty on transferring, playing time talks. Yeah. Okay, so there's going to be some talented guys that, for whatever reason, are number 2 on the depth chart, and they're ready to bolt. And so I would have to think at some point, Carolina's going to get that guy. They're going to get that guy that not only has the intangibles of Connor Shaw, but has some NFL measurables. And, once you get that, like, they're going to be able to get skilled players, and they're going to start getting more. There's no reason to think like they're not going to get Clowney, Gilmore, Swearingen all in one class, Holloman, but they'll get good defensive recruits. But to me, when you're a program at that level, when I say at that level, like you're not the elite, okay? So you're not getting your pick of the litter of national recruiting, hot 5-star, 4-star kids every year. What you need to really get you over the top is that special quarterback. Because if you don't, you're just kind of spinning your wheels. You're trying to gut it out. And this year they're going to have to gut it out anyway. I mean, the strength of their team is clearly running the football, and I would expect them to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're going to need a guy that can really strike fear into defenses throwing the ball, and they just haven't had that in a while.
Before we only have a few minutes left with you, Mike. But before we let you go, I want to transition this quarterback conversation to Athens, to JT Daniels. I mean, he's a guy who's everybody's pretty fired up to see now. If JT Daniels has not a good year, but if he has a great year, we all know you can't win the national championship without a great year at quarterback. That's just been proven. So if he has a great year, they might have a shot to finally crack through and do this thing. What's coming out of Athens? What conversations have you heard? What have you heard about JT Daniels as he's now the leader of the Dogs?
By the way, I'm enjoying the comments coming through on your message bar. I'm seeing all of them. I can't comment on all of them, but keep them coming. I love the
Craig's spot on with Justin Stepp there. That's a good hire.
Yeah. And there were some ones before that were really good too. Now look, Craig doubling up.
Yeah, we have very talented audience.
You do.
You
here. Do. I would say it's one of the most talented audiences in the country, and I say that for cheap applause.
I mean, they're stuck with us. They got to be talented somewhere.
Keep going. We need the numbers. Keep going, Mike.
Absolutely.
Keep going.
Well,
we got to get better. We got to get better numbers than that guy in the upstate that talks about him all the time. Okay, keep going. Let me tell you how great I am. Let me tell you how this works.
Yeah. Anyway.
I know.
No, look, the right back at you, Craig. The expectations. The expectations for Georgia, look, it's do or die. Basically, it's like, okay, you've got all the ingredients, and some would say Kirby's had all the ingredients before, and they win a ton of games, and they get a ton of recruits, and then they blow a double-digit lead to Alabama at the half 3 times. Yeah. Last year they lost to Florida. That was kind of a one-off. They're going to be favored in that game this year. They're going to be favored to win the East heavily. Even if they lose the Clemson game, they could easily wind up back in Atlanta with a rematch against potentially Alabama for a chance of the playoff. And then, I watched the replay, some of it on the SEC Network the other day of Jake Fromm's freshman year, the game against Oklahoma, one of the most exciting college football games really in the last 5 years. And then they go on and they have Alabama on the ropes in the national title game. They're this close and they squander it. 2nd and 26. That'll live in folklore for Alabama and Georgia fans. But my point is that anything short of that is considered a disappointment now. I mean, that's just where Georgia is. That's the good news. The bad news for Kirby Smart is, like, you got a fan base that they're getting a little impatient if they don't break through. It doesn't mean he's on the hot seat. There's a difference. Like, we're too quick to use that term, hot seat. He's not on the hot seat. He shouldn't be on the hot seat. He is on the be prepared for a lot of criticism if you don't take it to that next level with this complement of players. If that's a seat, it's a lot of words to fit on one seat, but that's the seat he's on.
Somebody that could be considered on a hot seat, winning 11 and 12 games a year. That just doesn't make any sense.
That's hey, if you don't want that, don't take the Georgia job.
Yeah.
If you don't want that, don't take the Alabama job. Don't take the A&M job. Don't take the Florida job. Don't take the LSU job.
Yeah. Or's on seats similar to Starks, right? I mean, it's not hot, but it's be ready for criticism if you don't live up to it.
I just found out I've got LSU in week 2, so I'll be out there to
do you?
Yeah.
Who do they have in week 2?
Oh, it's McNeese State, I believe. It's it's out of conference opponent.
Upset alert.
Yeah. But it'll be fun. It's a night game. I love doing games out there, and it'll be Coach O's a trip, so I'm looking forward to actually. I'm hoping we'll. I know we're there. I'm hoping we'll sit down with coaches this year, as opposed to a Zoom call. But yeah, I mean, he is the classic case of couldn't have gone worse at Ole Miss. Gets a second chance at LSU. They have a terrible loss. Who was it to? Troy that one night, and everybody's down on Coach O. One of your listeners will know. I think they lost to Troy, and then boom, you get Joe Burrow and you get Joe Brady, and you win a national championship and have a historical season, and then you go to 5-5. And last year, anything that could go wrong did go wrong, but there's a ton of talent there. But yeah, I mean, that is a job where it's you got to compete for rings. There's a few programs in this conference where you're expected to compete for rings on a regular basis, and I just mentioned those. Yeah,
Cooper.
West Troy. Tyler Ballou, you're the man. Thank you.
By the way, if you Google it, the first thing that comes up is a headline: Coach O after historic loss, 24-21.
I'm telling you, if you were to put Vegas odds on how long does Ed Orgeron last after that game against Troy, first of all, it was a hire that seemed curious on the outset. Like, it was a typical, we're LSU, we can get anybody we want. Let's go after this big name and that big. We're getting Jimbo. And then all of a sudden you just get a D-line coach. Well, a D-line coach that loves that community, loves that program, loves that job, knows that job. And then he was the most popular guy in the state of Louisiana. And then it quickly turns, and people have heard about the off the field stuff. So that is the roller coaster for these jobs, man. You get paid a lot of money, so no one's going to feel sorry for you. You get paid a lot of money, but man, it's a very, very rootless existence, because at any moment you feel like you're on the chopping block.
Him and Jim McElwain need to keep their shirts on when there's photos around.
Was there a photoless picture of Jim McElwain recently?
Yeah, the whole shark.
Oh, the
thing,
shark. Oh, gosh. I don't know who came up with that, but whoever did, I can't imagine he thought they would gain that much traction. I think that thing dropped right around the start of SEC Media Days. And the moment that McElwain, you could tell he was visibly upset about it because somebody asked him the question, and McElwain got real chippy about it. Right there, you're defeated. Right there, you're defeated, because you let everybody know that it bothered you to have a topless photograph with you embracing a shark. And now it's like it's open season. Like, you just got to laugh at that. Like Lane Kiffin. One thing I'll say about Lane, I know a lot of people don't like him. He's cocky, he's arrogant. He said the stupid thing about Alshon Jeffrey years ago, and Alshon's not pumping gas. He's got somebody else pumping gas in his Bentley. But Lane has a self-deprecating sense of humor about himself. He'll tell you he was too fat last year, so he had to go on a diet. Like, he doesn't take himself too seriously, and I think that's in a lot of ways that's the only way you'll survive in this job, because it's ruthless. Nowadays, especially with social media, it's more than ever. I hosted the post-game show at Carolina for years, right? I would do the TV, and then I would go over to the radio booth, and I would co-host that. And I thought, my God, this is brutal. After every loss, a lot of fans liquored up and just so angry and negative.
Worst part of the job.
Yeah. And people would say, like, how do you do that show, Mike? I'd go, Scotch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Scotch. I may or may not have had a beverage during those shows, but that was before the dawn of social media,
right?
Like, there was no Twitter for most of the years I did it. There was. You had message boards, but you didn't have the level of social media that you have today, and that sadly can get a coach fired. It just can. So it's a different deal, man.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night, or not tomorrow, Thursday night is the first Carolina calls of the year with Shane Beamer. I'm looking forward to the. Hey, John, you're on the air. Go ahead. Go ahead, John. You're on the air. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Turn down your radio.
Turn down your radio.
Turn down your radio for us. Yeah.
Hey, Coach, great to be here. Well, thanks. Anyway, Coach, I'm telling you, those are.
We could do a whole show on these. We got to get.
Oh gosh, between the radio shows, which you do. Well, some of them I did at a car dealership on Two Notch Road at night, where there's like prostitutes and drug dealers roaming the streets. So we're sitting
stealing
there.
The cars.
Yeah, like, by the way, can we get you in this Explorer? And then like filming the TV shows on Sunday morning in a freezing cold WIS TV studio. They don't do it like that anymore, but they used to.
Yeah.
My favorite one of those though was filling in and hosting one with Spurrier, and during the commercial breaks, just talking about Tampa Bay Bandits, Duke, Florida, everything. I felt like I had an hour with Rain Man, and I was going to execute every minute of it.
Boxer shorts, Mike. Boxer shorts.
It was so good. It was so good. But for the most part, those shows are just they're money makers, but a lot of them are just hard. They're so hard to listen to, and if you think they're hard to listen to, they're harder to do. They are hard as hell to like actually keep the train on the tracks and make it sound interesting, and you got someone in charge of screening calls, and that rarely works.
That doesn't work.
No,
never works.
No, I remember.
Hey, honey, you tell them it's you, and then give me the phone back.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, right. There's no screen, like there's no elaborate. They're not like taking your thumbprint and like getting a photo ID and a social security. No, anybody could call those shows, and you got a delay, but that's only as good as the person that's controlling the delay. Got to be quick on the trigger.
Don't be delayed if you're that person. That's for sure.
No.
Mike, we got to let you run on that note, man. But we certainly know that the mortgage rates are still very low.
So to Craig and like the 17 people that chimed in while we were just on the air, which I love. I'll bet you one of those guys is ready for a new mortgage, is ready for a refi, is tired of paying too much, is ready to save thousands, and I'm buying them dinner. That's what I'm doing.
It hauls.
Tyler, all these folks, great folks. You guys have been growing like by leaps and bounds. I noticed either that or it's football season that the texts are coming in fast and furious. But next person that does it and mentions that they heard about it on your show, tell Stuart Wingo about it, and I'll go ahead and buy him the dinner of your choice, whatever restaurant you want. Give me a good excuse to go ahead and have a good meal with the community, my people.
These are my people.
There we go.
That works too, Tyler. You can go hit that Stokes V Dub. That works just fine too.
Yeah. Well, I can't offer a car like you guys can, but
he could buy a new car if he refis. So
there you go. You save the money on the refi, then you buy the car, and then you test drive. First, you do your Wando power mower and get used to driving in the backyard. Then you go on the main track. Perfect. All comes together.
Wet weather. You're going to need one of those.
Cory McCartney's going to be talking shop here in a few moments, and he'll tell you why, despite the fact the Braves do not have a great lineup or a great pitching staff. They're in first place in a woeful division. That's coming up next on JB and Goldwater.
We got to get him a check in the mail, Darren. This is...
I'll just do your teases from here on out. I'll do all the heavy lifting for you.
Okay, you're going to need to the next couple of weeks because as we get closer to football season, we can actually start talking about games. You mentioned LSU might want to win that UCLA game, boys and girls down there in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, no doubt.
We'll get there. Mike, have a wonderful week. We know the Little League World Series and stuff's going great. Don't have any time really to get into it, but we'll certainly have more time next Tuesday. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Okay. Looking forward to it, guys. Always enjoy it.
Thank you, Mike. There you go. Mike Morgan over in Atlanta. All right. We're not even, we all love the national anthem. We all know that. We'll play it twice tomorrow. We're going to stay in Atlanta. These guys might as well be roommates, Mike Morgan and Cory McCartney. Hey, man.
I'm not here to refinance your house. Actually, just went to that a couple months ago, but I might be able to get you some protein powder or something along those lines. But yeah, I can't. No mortgage refinancing here.
I don't need the protein powder. I need the money.
Once school starts up again, I might need that protein powder because that's when the time is there to get back to the gym.
There you go.
Yeah. I love going to the gym and watching all those folks work out. It is a blast. Well, hey, Cory, sorry we're a little late, man. But obviously you heard Mike, so it wasn't because we were just toying around. We were talking about serious stuff around here. Here's the good news. I don't know if anybody. I know Darren's. He's turned it all off now. He's done. He's checked out. But Braves are in first place, Corey.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you look back to the middle of June and a team that was 7.5 games out of first place now has a 1.5 game lead in this division. And, Alex Anthopoulos said it on trade deadline day that they felt the Mets were vulnerable and they just weren't going to pack it in. And obviously they made the right decision because now they're sitting atop the East again.
You can make an argument that they're the hottest team in baseball. If you look at the last 10, 12 games they've played, and they are. Based on that, I get it. They haven't necessarily beaten the Dodgers and the Giants, although that opportunity is right around the corner. But how important is it, this stretch that they're in, playing teams that they probably should beat to carry them through the rest of the year? I mean, where was this team from a confidence standpoint before they got hot?
Well, I think it was there just because they felt like they had stayed somewhat afloat, with basically a mix and match outfield of sub replacement level players, guys like Almonte and Heredia, Adrianza, Orlando Arcia that they had brought in as well. Then they go out and get Adam Duvall, Jock Peterson, and Jorge Soler, and then have Eddie Rosario coming up through rehab assignment right now at AAA Gwinnett. This was going to be the stretch, right, where they were going to have an opportunity to take advantage, regardless of whether or not the Mets were, not going to be able to keep a competent team on the field. I mean, they're in the middle of playing the Dodgers and the Giants for, 10 straight games. And meanwhile, you got the Braves, in a run of games they should be winning. The Phillies are obviously in a run of games where they should, be doing quite well. Things are going to heat up, though. I mean, you got the Yankees coming up, and after you get done with the Orioles and this series with the Marlins. So the Giants after that, the Dodgers after that. So things are going to get a little more hectic for this Braves team, but this was a key stretch. If they were going to make some hay in the National League East, they needed to do it now and to build some kind of a cushion before they get to that tough games.
That's right. And, I think that a lot of folks would probably agree that although it has been good, there still is some concern on in the bullpen. How concerning is it, though, Mike? I mean, they got to get some things figured out, but luckily they're winning games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main thing, right? I mean, I think you can look at what Will Smith has done, and you go back to, these past. I mean, obviously they're winning that game against the Nationals. To have would have made it, 12 games out of 13 that they would have won instead of 11 had he not, blown a save there. And certainly he's had his issues. He's really struggled. Getting, 3 guys out in the 9th inning, which is obviously the primary role of a closer. But, I think these guys are so much more comfortable in roles, right? But I think when you have Richard Rodriguez, who has closed game for the Pirates, you've had Tyler Matzik, who has been absolutely lights out. You've got Chris Martin, you've got Luke Jackson, who's closed before. You have a lot of options. It just seems as though they're married to this notion of having Will Smith in that role. And I think, we're not to the days anymore where you have those guys that when that bullpen door opens, the opposing team just deflates when they see that guy walk through because they know it's over. That the Braves don't have that kind of an option in that closer role. And a lot of teams, frankly, don't anymore. And I think maybe flexibility should be something they look at going forward. But, it all comes down to the fact that if you get into the postseason, you've got to have a guy that you're fully confident in the 9th inning and getting it done. And that's not been Will Smith of late.
No. What is it with him? Is it control? Is it, what is it? What's he's got the stuff. We all know he's got the stuff. What's going on?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, when you have closers who rely a lot more on breaking balls than they do, with a fastball, and he's obviously a guy, he really sets up the slider, he throws a curveball. He's not a guy who's going to overpower you with the fastball. So I think he's a little bit different of a makeup of a closer, but Richard Rodriguez is the same way. He's a guy who throws in the low 90s, but he's in the upper 90th percentile in the league in spin rate. So they don't have a guy who's going to go out there and hit 100. They just don't have that. So I think you've got to find some, comfortability with what you have in place.
Cory McCartney, 1:15 on this Tuesday afternoon in Atlanta, Georgia. We should have just done the show on the road today, Darren. It would have been a.
It had taken us 12 hours to get to Atlanta once we got within an hour of it.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. How about Austin Riley? I mean, where is he in the MVP race? I mean, he's a candidate. He's a serious candidate. I mean, with what he's done, where is he in that race?
Yeah, I think if the Braves win this division, just because of the fact that Freddie Freeman is the reigning MVP, I think he's going to be the guy who's going to get the love from this team. But Austin Riley should be right there. Frankly, Ozzie Albies should be right there. I mean, he leads the majors in extra base hits. He's moved into that leadoff role now with Acuna out. He just can continue to be, a spark plug for them. Dansby Swanson, is having a fantastic season and set the Braves franchise record for home runs by a shortstop in a single year. So I think you can look at all those guys, but I think the name recognition and certainly Freddie Freeman already having won it last year, I think he's going to be the guy. But I don't think you can say enough about Austin Riley and someone who's finally put it all together. Just the infield in general. I mean, they're just I can get into a little bit more, but there are some historic home run numbers that these guys are chasing down, both within this franchise and in Major League Baseball, and it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Is this the best infield in baseball? That's a kind of a dumb question. Is this the best offensive infield in baseball, and is it the best defensive infield in baseball?
I don't think it's the best defense. So I think Oakland is still the best defensive infield in baseball. But I think I think you can make an argument from what these guys are getting done from an offensive standpoint. I mean, this is right now the most prolific infield in baseball. I mean, this has the potential to be the first infield in history with 4 30-run home run hitters. The first in history. Wow. I mean, there's only no Braves team has ever had more than 2 25 home run hitters in its infield in a year. And they're going to hit that, within maybe today if Dansby hits one. So, it's crazy. And you think about the fact that they could end up having, 25 home run hitters. Acuna was 1 short, and you don't have Marcell Ozuna. So this could have been a team that could have had 6 guys hit 30 home runs. If you would have taken what Acuna was on pace to do, he was 6 away. If you would have taken the full season average of Marcell Ozuna, where he's averaged 27 in his full seasons, they could have had 6 guys hit 30 home runs.
I hate to even phrase a question like this, but I do think it's a worthy question because of what the Braves are doing. Whoa, got a little bit of a power bump here. Would the Braves, would they be in a different spot if Acuna had not got hurt? I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, even without Acuna, are they right where they would have been?
Well, I think they would have had to have made a play in the outfield, right? Because you don't have Ozuna. So they were going to have to do something. Right? And because of the fact that, you let Ender Ciarte go, Christian Pache was not delivering. You weren't ready to bring up Drew Waters. I think they would have had to have made at least 1, if not 2 moves in the outfield. So, maybe they get Jock and they get Jorge Soler. They get Jock and they get Adam Duvall. I think they would have made multiple moves in the outfield. But, I mean, certainly the infield has propped them up. I mean, it really has. It's if Dansby doesn't have the year that he's having, if Austin Riley doesn't have the year that he's having, I don't know where this team's at, because I think you would have had the same production from Ozzie Albies that you expect. You would have had what you expect from Freddie Freeman, but you didn't have Travis d'Arnaud for 86 games. Certainly you're out without Mike Soroka all year long. So yeah. I think they would have still been in the same place if Acuna was still there. I think just maybe the makeup of that outfield would look just a tad bit different.
So let me ask you this. Last week, you made the point of, all right, with this Braves surge, and they weren't yet at the first place level. Maybe they were tied when we last talked to you. But the point was, hey, look, if you make a good, solid run at the postseason, maybe you get there, maybe you fall just short. But if you get there and then fall short once you're there, it's considered a success. So now we're a week later. The roll has continued, if not just surged on. This offense is on fire, and we're into mid-August. Does that perception change? Is the goal and the end game now more of a, hey, we got to go deeper here?
Honestly, I don't think so, because to me, the ceiling of this team hasn't changed. You're gonna get the Brewers if as things stand right now. You're gonna get the Brewers in the first round. Can you get past the West in the NLCS? Can they beat the Giants, Dodgers, or Padres? I don't think they can. They've only won 1 out of 3 against the Brewers. So I don't know that I don't know that the end game has changed for this team. I think they're deeper, and certainly they're a talented group. But I don't know from my perspective that what they're ultimately going to be able to accomplish has changed in the last week.
I just want to have a history moment with you here, because you said the Braves had never had more than 2 infielders hit 25
Well, if you take out catcher, so if you're talking if you're talking first, second, shortstop, third, they've never had more than 2.
Never had Chipper and
Fred.
Well, they had Chipper and Fred McGriff did it once. Andres Galarraga and Chipper did it twice. And then you had Freddie Freeman and Josh Donaldson do it in 19. And
that's
now
it?
you've got, that's it. And then that's of late. And obviously you can go a little bit further back. I mean, I got copious notes here. So you've also got, you also got Darrell Evans and Davey Johnson in 73. And that's the other one. Yeah. And then you've got Freeman and Riley right now. So
that seems, I just can't, that doesn't make sense to me. That's with all great players that have been in this organization all those years. But I guess when I think about a lot of the balls that used to leave the yard, they came from the outfielders, corner infielders, and the catcher generally. You've
really not had a lot of power options from this team at shortstop. Remember, Andrelton Simmons had a 17 home run season in 2013, and then the well kind of went dry until Dansby's had these past couple years. I mean, obviously had Dan Uggla for a while, but he faded for a long time, and then you saw Ozzie come up. So. And third base between Chipper Jones and Austin Riley was kind of a black hole. You had one year where Chris Johnson was good, but he only hit 17 that year. So, I mean, it's always kind of been pieces, but they haven't had it. They've never had it like this.
Yeah, but he also hit like 330 that year, didn't he? If I remember.
Yeah, well, he had like a 395 batting average on balls in play, which is the Braves record. And he got paid. I actually ran into him at the winter meetings in Vegas. What was that, 3 years ago? And he was kind of going around trying to see if he could get his way back into an organization. The Marlins had let him go that previous offseason. So that's one of the little underlying things at winter meetings is you'll see a lot of guys who are kind of on the fringe, former guys who were known major leaguers who are trying to get into somebody's suite and kind of talk their way back into an organization.
Do you think Chris Davis will be able to pull that off? He goes out and hits 50 home runs, gets like $200 million and never has a hit again in his career.
I think if he were to go to Japan, I think he could make some cash.
That is one of the
that is the movie, isn't it? Basically the premise of Mr. 3000.
Yeah.
You're all washed up and you go out there and reinvent yourself.
Yep.
That's a good point. I mean, those situations, the Brady, Brady Anderson deal. Yeah. The Chris Davis. How many times have the Orioles screwed this up? The Chris Davis deal, the Mike Hampton situation. Obviously, these are I'm a big fan when I hear people say things, Cory, like, well, there is nobody that is worth $400 million. I'm like, well, let me tell you something. If somebody's going to pay you $400 million to work for their insurance agency, you'd take it. The market says they're worth what they're worth, period. The end. I don't care what you think. If that's what the market says they're worth, that's what they're worth. But where they get a black eye in all of this are these bad deals where somebody has this great year, or you have a Mike Hampton type situation, and they're making all this money, and they're like, he's hitting 091 and it's July, but he's making $30 million this season. Like, that's where they see that, and then all of a sudden they think, well, nobody's worth that money.
Well, BJ Upton at the time had the biggest free agent contract in Braves history, and he was a train wreck. I mean, it was
garbage.
Yeah.
Dude, Strasburg has pitched 26 2/3 innings since he signed that extension after the World Series. 26 innings.
Really?
That's it.
Cole Hamels has pitched 2 innings in the last 2 years. Or 3 1/3 in the last 2 years. His agent is a god.
Good. Muschamp's agent.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry, Coach. If you're he's a big fan of our show. So
okay.
Yeah, like everybody else. I don't even know what I was about to say. I've done forgot. We did get a question online though. This is a worthy question. Is it too early? No, it's a good one. Mark asks, is it too early to start talking about September call-ups? No, I don't think it's too early. But for the Braves, are probably is worried about the guys that they have than less that the guys that they don't have just yet. But for the sake of conversation, we're here in mid-August. Who are we keeping an eye on for Atlanta?
I would love to see Shea Langoliers up. I think because the two of the past three postseasons, the Braves have carried three catchers, and you've got Kevin Smith, who you already DFA'd. William Contreras could not hit at the major league level. Shea Langoliers is having a ridiculous season from a power department. Everyone loves the glove. They love the arm. And if there's any anticipation that he's going to be a guy who next season is going to contend, for a role in Atlanta, I think that's a fantastic chance for him to come up and supply some depth at the catcher spot. So I think, obviously you're going to hear Pache and his Water's going to get his chance, but I think ideally you're looking at Pache coming up and being a defensive replacement. And maybe if you're going to carry another catcher, you look at potentially Shea Langoliers.
Was he, hold on, let me think about it. Baylor? Did he go to Baylor?
Yes. Yeah. Remember they gotten Shoemake from A&M and him the same in draft. So yeah.
I remember Shoemake. I watched him play. But the Langoliers, I knew it was somewhere in Texas. I thought it was Baylor.
That kid can hit. So yeah, I'd love to see him get a chance.
Well, he's good. I'm as an old veteran catcher myself here, Corey, before I pour this bourbon. Now I always look defense first. Can you play or not back there? Because like your job as a catcher is to, catch, get strikes, understand the staff, be able to throw runners out, things like. Can you manage a staff? Are you good at that or not?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, can you hit? And if you can hit, what's that look like? Are you going to hit 190, but you can hit 30 home runs? That doesn't do me a lot of good. But he can do all of it. I mean, he is a really good player. If you just for a thought here, this better than Darren. I asked Darren the other day, and he gave him an F. But if you had to put a grade on the Braves minor league organization from a talent standpoint, do you have an idea of what that grade might be?
I think it'd probably be an A-. I don't think they're where they were, but this is still a top 5. I mean, they have 5 Baseball America top 100 prospects. Yeah. I mean, it's still a more of a front-loaded organization, but a lot of the guys, have obviously graduated on. Kyle Muller just broke into the Baseball America top 100 last week. So I mean, they still have all those names that you've heard of, and then they have guys like Freddie Tarnock, who's really making a run up a lot of rankings and whatnot. So I think they still have a lot of pieces in place. But it's going to get to the point where you only have so many options. And at what point we've been waiting on them to trade what they've long called prospect capital for a while to really get something of note, but they've not pulled that trigger yet.
Darren, remember these names. These are your future nightmares. These are the names you'll wake up screaming and they'll like, no, not Drew Waters, no,
not Sid Bream. No, it's the perception is all right. So you got this core here. You got guys who are improving as it's going along. You got the next wave kind of ready to break in. So the look and the feel is that there's got to be a little bit of staying power around the top of the division.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but what are the Mets going to do, right? I mean, are they ever going to get healthy? Certainly they go out and get Javier Baez. They've socked a lot of money into Francisco Lindor. They've had a underwhelming season, to say the least. I wonder how aggressive they'll be this offseason in trying to supplement things, considering the way it's fallen apart for them. But we'll see if they can make any headway. They are in a tough stretch now, but things are really going to open up for them after they get past this really rough West Coast run.
All right, Corey, before we let you run here, what divisions are done? They're sewed up. It's over. The leader's going to win it.
Oh, all right. Well, let me see.
I think the White Sox in the Central.
Yeah, the White Sox are going to win it for sure. I think the Brewers and the White Sox are really the only ones. I mean, I think the Dodgers are making enough of a charge that I think they're going to make things uncomfortable for the Giants. I think Oakland is right there at 2.5 back, and they're finally starting to put stuff together. And things are going to get dicey in that American League East. I know the Rays have looked really good, but the Yankees are putting it together. We know what that offense is capable of. I don't think the Blue Jays are just going to go softly into the night. So I think that one's going to be a lot of fun.
There are 2 run differentials that just stats that blow me away. One is the Dodgers. It's August, and they're plus 194, 6 runs away from being 200 runs scored more than their opponents this year, and they're second in the division, which is unbelievable. The other's the Braves, and it's not because they've scored 82 runs more than their opponents. It's because they're the only team in the division that has outscored their opponents. Everybody else is minus. That's baffling.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And for the longest time, you had obviously a team with negative run differential that was sitting atop, and you have to go back to the 2012 Rangers to find the last team that had that won its division with a negative run differential. So. It doesn't happen often.
It just goes to show, Corey, I think that everybody has a little bit of there's so many ways to win. I mean, Billy Bean's way of winning is going to be different from Alex Anthopoulos' way of winning and things like that. And some teams, you got to be able to pitch. Well, you got to be able to score runs. I mean, the Phillies were leading the division with a minus 20 run differential. Now the Braves are leading it, and they're plus 82. I mean, there's just so many ways to cut the pie. I mean, I think that people that say, well, this is how we have to win. I don't buy. I don't necessarily buy it and all that, but it could be different from year to year. What do I know? I'm just
the guy on the radio.
Just a low-rated talk show host. All right. Anything else you want to pass along? We need to start doing like some type of baseball history giveaway or something with you. Ooh.
You're going to give me something, or I'm going to give something?
Well,
start grabbing stuff.
The way this show works is we bring people on to give stuff away, and we don't pay you for it. That's how
there you go. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, but you're like a historian. I bet you one of those books you got behind me, you got all kinds of facts, neat little nuggets back there we didn't know about.
There you go. You got Baseball Reference. You can pull up all kinds of stuff. So yeah, hey, I'll come up with some trivia thing if you guys want to do it. We'll have we'll have whoever's the whatever number to answer it correctly, or we'll come up with something.
Yeah, it could just be Braves trivia, like something as simple as we used to do trivia at the local ESPN station here. I think one year was, what year did the Braves win the World Series? And of the 10 folks that brought their answers up, like 2 of the 10 got it right. I was like, are you Braves fans? It was 96. I said, they got their ass beat 96. It wasn't 96.
Well, I think as long as we can do it and people get a point off their mortgage, I think we'll tie everything together.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it's going to work. All right, man. Well, we'll let you run on that note. Enjoy hot Atlanta. The Braves are making a run. This could be a fun next month or so, Corey. Hopefully they stay on top of the division. That's your job. And when we talk to you next week, hopefully you've kept them there. Thanks, bud.
All right, boys. Appreciate it.
Cory McCartney over there in Atlanta. But between Mike and Corey, it's time for a timeout. When we return, we're going to stop putting miles on this Volkswagen Atlas. We're going to stay right here in the Low Country. Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier rounds out our Tuesday afternoon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit StonoFerryGolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. StonoFerryGolf.com.
You are listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Final segment on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. For our friends up there in the upstate, I understand that there has been a tornado warning at least some point in time in the last 20 or so minutes. So if you're counting on us for your weather forecast, sorry about that. But if you are in the upstate, which we know there's a bunch of you up there that watch and listen to our program, certainly hope that everything's okay up that way. So, all right, 1:35 on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks to Cory, Mike, and now Gene. Welcome back, Gene. You know, we love it when you go on vacation because we're excited for you to go out and explore the world and all those type things. But we hate it because we like to talk to you around here. So it's good to have you back, my friend. What's up?
Well, I know there's a lot of gloom and doom being forecast for this segment of the program because I've been out for a while. But I just want to say that this roster is deep enough. It's not just one player. And, I think it's going to be a good season here. Hey,
so you know what? Good. I like that. Well done. Good start there because, here's the thing. Here's what I draw from this. Gene, I think you and I are smart enough to know that if your starting quarterback goes down, the other 117 guys around there probably aren't going to be able to step right in and do what he was hopefully planning to do. But Dabo Swinney spent a lot of years in the upstate telling people a bunch of crap that we all pretty much laughed at, thought that that's just bogus. It's not true. But what he did, he wasn't focusing attention on the outside world. Those messages were for his team. They resonated. They helped build. And Dabo Swinney and Clemson are the power that they are today. Do you think Shane Beamer's taking a similar path there?
Absolutely. And he's not taking a page out of Dabo's book. Dabo's taking a book out of Coaching 101, and that is a book that Shane Beamer grew up reading at the knee of his father, the great Frank Beamer. What Shane Beamer, more importantly, was talking about, and I think David Cloninger of our staff articulated it too in Story for the Post and Courier, is he's taking control of the message. And the message is basically, I don't know exactly what's been going on around here the last 4 years or so, but I'm spinning this thing positive no matter what. And we are moving forward in a very upbeat tone around here. And he sincerely believes that.
I think so. I mean, obviously the news hasn't been wonderful news when it pertains to the roster the last few days. Doty, we got some news today. Ricky Sandage, he's not going to be out for the season, although there was some speculation out there that he might be. He's a little banged up. He's probably going to take a little bit longer to get back than they originally thought. The Prunty news, Cam Smith, Kevin Harris. I mean, there's a lot of things. We get news today that they're taking a GA who was a quarterback at Iowa State and then at North Dakota State. He was here helping coach the quarterbacks, at least in the classroom. Oh, you're going to play, son. Here's your uniform, number 25. Get out there and throw it around. So, like, you see that, and you're like, well, winning programs don't pull GAs off out of the classroom and make them a part of the team, which I think there's a lot of truth in that. But at the same time, we knew there's going to be bumps in the road. I don't know that we necessarily thought they'd be pulling folks out of the stands, but the message still, no matter what goes on around you, it's like being on the radio, Gene. The building could be on fire, but nobody can see you. So just act like everything's normal. And that looks like that's at least what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And moreover, guys, I think the fans have bought in. If you look at this story that just came out about, largest number of new season ticket orders ever, that's pretty amazing. And, there's probably some numbers that can be juggled around there and so forth, but still, what that tells me is, first of all, South Carolina fans are one of the most educated groups there is as far as knowing what's going on in the program and around the respective conference that the team is in. So they know what's coming. They know what's coming this season, probably 3, 4, maybe 5 wins. I don't know. And yet they're wanting to get in on the ground floor of this and support the squad and see what kind of program Shane Beamer is going to build. Having said all that, it could be really tough. It could be really tough in week 2 in Greenville, North Carolina.
It could be, but because you're getting a great point. Yeah, it's a record for South Carolina, the number of new ticket sales, not total ticket sales, although they'd love to break that record, I'm sure.
Right.
So you attribute most of that to Shane Beamer. What if they would have hired Billy Napier? You think it'd have the same impact?
I'm going to say probably, because I think he's a pretty good coach. And I mean, he would have been undefeated at this point, as is Shane Beamer. And that's the advantage that any new coach has, that unless they have some real baggage that they have brought from another program or a lot of losing records or something, they pretty much get to preach enthusiasm, and enthusiasm usually sells a heck of a lot better than what was the opposite, which is usually what they replaced.
You know how some people have been over the last few years, Gene, if the grass isn't cut, it's Ray Tanner's fault. If it's raining, it's Ray Tanner's fault. The oak tree on the corner over there is dropping acorns when your car drives by. Guess whose fault that is? It's Ray Tanner's. But if Ray Tanner had not made the move to let go of Will Muschamp, I know that there was more involved in this. President Caslin, we're not rehashing this. But had the move not been made, what do you think we'd be going through right now at South Carolina?
It would have been tough. The advantages would have been they would have held some recruits from the last class and still have some other guys. But, Shane's really turned recruiting around with a very, very assertive staff out there. I mean, I talk to coaches in other programs, that are really impressed with what South Carolina's getting done out there on the recruiting trail. I think, frankly, for me, that's always been one of the best ways to tell how a program is doing in recruiting. Ask other programs, and so I think that's gone well. But yeah, I really personally liked Will Muschamp, and there were just some tough breaks for him at both Florida and South Carolina. But yeah, right now it would have been a really, if not depressing, very mundane approach to the 2021 season if he were still the head coach at South Carolina.
On Twitter at Sapakoff, Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier 140 on this Tuesday afternoon. How important, Gene, is it in your assessment of the program? You mentioned maybe not many wins this year, but they don't start with North Carolina or NC State, or for that matter, they don't even start with Vanderbilt in the SEC. They start with Eastern Illinois. How important is that in your mind for Shane Beamer and this football team?
It's important. The win is in the bag, but how that's done is going to be sort of scrutinized, and rightfully so. I think how they go about winning that game and, maybe go about winning the next week is really going to tell a lot of what kind of chances they have with their SEC schedule. The formula that I see, guys, is really making use of your three best position groups: running back, that tight end room that assistant coach Eric Kimry and the other coaches really love, and the offensive line is really one of the better position groups that they have too. To me, that says we're going to shorten games and play a little bit of keep away, and I think that's the way to go with the quarterbacks and receivers that they have.
Well, up the road, that's not the case. DJ Uiagalelei can throw it all over the yard, and he might be doing just that on September the 4th. We'll see. I mean, we're getting closer and closer to a top 5 matchup. Georgia, Clemson, Charlotte. The rankings are now out. Tigers in at 3, Dogs in at 5 per the AP. You got 2 quarterbacks who are on a lot of Heisman lists and towards the top of those lists, and both Daniels and Uiagalelei. You've got a team that's won a couple national championships recently. You got another team that their fans think they should have won a couple national championships lately in Georgia, Gene. So over the next couple of weeks, as this game, the momentum builds getting into it, what's most important, at least in your eyes, for the Tigers and for the Dogs?
Well, for Clemson, and I think this is going to be kind of behind the scenes because we're not going to get a look at those scrimmages, but from what they say is that running back group has to come along, and not just Will Shipley had a great run or caught a great pass, but they're going to have to really be working on picking up protection schemes and things like that, because Kirby Smart's going to throw everything he can at DJ Uiagalelei in Charlotte. And for Georgia, boy, they've had, just Google this, a lot of injuries at receiver in camp, and that is already perhaps their thinnest group. But, if they get that together, and then Darian Kendrick solidifies that secondary the way most everybody thinks he will, they're just going to be a heck of a team. I love that this game is the opener, but kind of wish it was a little later in the season. But this game could stand up as being one of, if not the best games of the college football regular season this year.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, and then look, here's the news with, I've been calling him Eric Gilbert for 2 years, but apparently it's A. Rick. So whatever. The tight end who transferred from LSU apparently to Florida, but not really, and then almost back to LSU and then to Georgia. He's out for personal reasons. They don't know when they're going to get him back. They don't know if they'll have him back by week 1. Who knows? But he was you mentioned the receivers. We all know Georgia can run the football. They've been able to do that for decades. But does JT Daniels have the weapons? I don't know. And Gilbert certainly was going to be a part of that. Clemson's got weapons. We know that. So, if that's the case for Georgia, if they don't have Gilbert, that's going to be a large impact. To summarize, though, if one or whoever loses this game, where does that put them in the grand scheme of things as far as making the playoff?
I think it's a lot more important for Clemson because of the very weak schedule they have. And people poke fun at the Tigers' ACC schedule over the last 3 or 4 years, what have you. This is one of the easier ones they've had because they do not play North Carolina or Miami in the regular year at least. And it's just going to be hard if they lose to Georgia to prove to the committee, and that's the only people that count, the College Football Playoff Committee, that they're good. And if Georgia loses, though, they're going to have multiple opportunities to prove that they're good, and including, if this works out this way and they win the SEC East, they'd have a shot at Alabama, who I expect to win the SEC West, and thus get into the playoff. But Clemson just doesn't have that many opportunities. I'm not saying that if they lose, they're for sure out of the playoff, but it could be tough if Oklahoma and Ohio State and the Alabama-Georgia winner are as good as we think they're going to be.
When you look at the Tigers' schedule, Gene, I just pulled this up, and we've talked about this a lot this year. I totally agree with you. Tiger fans, a lot of them get offended when people criticize their schedule, but it is what it is. I mean, the way that it looks now, it doesn't look strong. That doesn't mean that it might not be stronger than people think. It's not Clemson's fault. It's not their fault that Florida State has sucked the last few years. I mean, they can't help that. They beat their brains in every year, so that might be partly, but it's not their job to go down and make Florida State good. It's not their job to make Louisville good again. So the thing with them, right, is you're looking for the tricky games. You're looking for the hurdles. You're not looking for the team that you think might be on par with you. It's the one where if you have a bad night and the ball doesn't bounce your way, what game might you could lose to a team that's capable of that happening? Maybe NC State in week 4. That game's in Raleigh. It'll depend on how the Wolfpack are playing.
Yeah, on paper, that's by far, to me, their toughest game, which is not saying much. But week 4 in Raleigh at NC State, it's a crazy fan base that hates Clemson, and Dave Doran's done a pretty good job with that program, and they're not bad. I mean, they're an above-average ACC team. So, I mean, there's a chance. It's really weird to even be talking about this because just a matter of just several years ago, guys, to say that Clemson is playing 2 SEC teams, one of them who's in the top 5, and the other SEC game's on the road. And then they are going to have to play theoretically in Charlotte in an ACC championship game. And, Florida State's still in the league, and Miami's in the league, and Virginia Tech, and this schedule is ridiculously easy. All these little things had to fall. I mean, South Carolina is kind of in a down phase right now, and Florida State is not the Seminoles of Bobby Bowden. They don't play Virginia Tech. They don't play North Carolina. Don't play Miami. It's just bizarro world, really, in the ACC schedule for Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, if you had to rank them, the trip to Louisville could be interesting. I think, though, you never know in a rivalry game. I mean, right now, I don't give Gamecocks much of a chance to win it, unfortunately, for my sake of things. But it doesn't look good. But I think if anybody's going to have a chance to get him, barring a major injury for Clemson, a DJ Uiagalelei type knock on wood injury, you better get him early. Because if you don't, it seems like they'll probably steamroll their way right. Luckily, they got UConn on November the 13th. That could pose a challenge in Death Valley.
Yeah, you never know with the Huskies, and especially if Gino Ariema can fire those players up. But
that's true.
Or play himself. That might be what they need.
Real quick here, you got Coastal in there at 22, Gene, at the AP to start the season. Louisiana right behind them at 23. That's pretty cool. Those two, by the way, do not play in the regular season. The Lafayette Raging Cajuns or the Chanticleers. But Coastal does start with the Citadel coming up in a couple of weeks, and then they got Kansas. They could be off to a roaring start. This Coastal team, where are they compared to last year? Where are they? Are they better?
On paper, they are. I mean, Grayson McCall is that much better at quarterback, one of the better quarterbacks in the country at any level, you'd have to say. And you mentioned how they start the season. They play the Citadel on a Thursday, Kansas on a Friday. They have a Wednesday game during the middle of the year at App State. Because of what they did last year, they're going to be the target for a lot of those teams in the Sun Belt for sure, and in non-conference games. They'll be favored over Kansas. That's weird on both sides of the ball, but I think they're really good. Can they duplicate 11-1 again? I'm not really sure about that, but it really just shows what Jamie Chadwell and his very underrated coaching staff have done with the Chanticleer program.
The Citadel's on Thursday night. The Kansas game is a Friday night. I'm trying to go back and forth looking at the Arkansas State game on the road at Arkansas State. I believe that's a Thursday night. It is. App State, you mentioned, is a Wednesday night. So they've taken advantage of every opportunity Coastal has, Gene, to get on national television. What do you think this does for them?
I think it's going to be great for recruiting, and Jamie Chadwell has already kind of said to me and to a lot of other people that they are getting to talk to recruits that they never would have thought that they would get to talk to just, 12, 14 months ago or whatever. So the combination of what they're accomplishing on the field and how recruiting is going, and then the fact that he's been able to hold his coaching staff together, like Chad Staggs is just a ridiculously good defensive coordinator. He's going to be a head coach someday soon, I would think. But I think that it's really going to solidify what's going on there at Coastal Carolina. And the only thing that could derail that is something that very well might happen, and that's that Jamie Chadwell gets a better job.
Yeah. 6 of the 12, by the way, 6 of the 12 games they play this year, not on Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday games. Pretty remarkable stuff.
It's interesting because it messes with the schedule. I mean, coaches, players, everyone's such a creature of habit, but you're going to be juggling things, even if you're just sliding things by a day or two either way. You're juggling the schedule the entire year if half of your schedule is not on Saturday.
That's a really good point, Darren. And you know that. The meetings, how you build up to a week, what you do on a Sunday, that is going to just be in such flux there for the Chanticleers. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle success. But hey, you got to welcome those kind of expectations.
Yeah, that is an interesting point too. I think what stands out, a lot of these games are scheduled to where you have more time, but the one that does catch my eye here is not that I'm claiming that Louisiana Monroe is some powerhouse, but they have them on Saturday in Conway, October the 2nd, and then it's the following Wednesday that I think Gene was mentioning where they go to Arkansas State at the 7th. So 5 days. But they're going to travel, of course, on the 6th. So they're going to literally have to get right back on the field that Sunday and practice after they play that Saturday game. Practice Sunday, Monday, travel on Tuesday, play a football game on Wednesday. That you don't see that often, ever actually in college football.
No, it's crazy. And then they wind up at South Alabama on Friday, playing, I guess, against Jake Bentley at quarterback.
Oh,
schedule for Coastal Carolina.
By the way, speaking of former quarterbacks in this state, Ryan Helinski, of course, of South Carolina, Hunter Johnson, formerly at Clemson, they've been duking it out up there in Northwestern. Who's going to start? Hunter Johnson is going to start for Northwestern. I want to pass that along. Gene, a minute ago you mentioned Gino Auriemma. It seems like Dawn Staley and the administration in South Carolina going back and forth a little bit on contract negotiations. There have been some reports out there that, they're nowhere near things and this, that, and the other. I don't hope people don't take that like they're mad at each other. They're just negotiating a new contract. Should be out probably in the next week or two, I would think. What do you think that looks like for Dawn?
It probably looks like the biggest contract in women's college basketball, and something that really gets the attention of men's college basketball coaches too. I think it's going to be pretty well deserved with the very positive attention she brings to the university and the state on and off the court.
Yeah, she's more than deserving. I think, is Gino the highest paid women's coach in the country? $2.5 million?
I do not know, but I'd be stunned if he's not.
Or I'm not sure what LSU's done with Mulkey. She's already gotten a raise and hasn't coached the game.
She's $2.5 million. That's right, but she's not the highest. I think Gino's the highest. I think maybe Dawn approaches $2.5 million. How much more money is Gino making than the football coach at UConn? About $30 million more.
Well, he's won a lot more championships, and he's got better athletes. So
he does. It gets more fans. Gene, there is no shot we're going to let you get out of here without your comments and thoughts on last week's Field of Dreams game.
That was a beautiful thing. I mean, I just got a lump in my throat seeing Costner coming out of the cornfield, followed by the Yankees and the White Sox. And I just thought that was very well done. And, I know I'd like to hear what Darren says about this, but Joe Buck and those guys just didn't say a word for the longest time. And I thought that was the coolest thing of just Sound of Silence was a beautiful thing.
I read I'm not sure where I read it today. There have been so many articles about this thing, but apparently, not to anyone's surprise, that scene itself was rehearsed 2 or 3 times the night before, then again the morning. Costner was doing it. Then it was also done by, I believe, the director who wanted to get the feel of it as well. And then the story basically punctuates itself with, and then of course, as they're doing it live, as the players come out of the corn, that's when Costner turns around. It's right when there's like a crescendo in the music. They say, of course, and Costner turns at the absolute perfect time, like you'd expect of a perfect actor to do. I thought, as it started, I was like, man, it's a little cheesy with Costner walking out there and this obvious movie feel. And then the guys start walking out. I thought it was perfect. I mean, I teared up. I thought it was perfect. I thought the whole game itself was perfect. And I thought the broadcast itself couldn't have been any better.
It was sweet. And I guess this is an annual thing now because I've got the Cubs and Reds booked, but nothing will beat that first time for sure.
Yep.
What did that, just curiosity, what did that make you feel like? I mean, I've seen you out there a lot in years past playing catch with Jeffrey. What'd that make you feel like as a dad?
I mean, really cool. From Field of Dreams, I remember seeing it the first time, and I'll just say I cried in the theater. But it's been sort of discussed and gone over so many times. Shoeless Joe, all this stuff, commercialization a little bit of the whole thing that. I maybe like when Field of Dreams comes on now on TV, I don't just jump right in there anymore, but that brought all that back.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just a wonderfully sweet, well-produced thing.
Yeah. Well, Gene, I think we've got a little bit to talk about in the paper in the next few weeks. So what's coming up on your end?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would just want to say that our new Clemson beat writer, John Blau, and David Cloninger both have cool new newsletters that you guys could check out at postandcourier.com. But for me, I'm going to discuss the Gamecocks offense in a column tomorrow at postandcourier.com. CJ Spiller, the new Clemson running backs coach, in a column for later in the week. And then on Sunday, my annual predictions column for all the NCAA Division I teams in the state, from South Carolina and Clemson to Presbyterian, which, yes, plays FCS football still, but non-scholarship football.
And non-punting.
And doesn't punt.
Yeah, isn't the Clemson guy, Gene, isn't John a Penn Stater? I saw in his Twitter header that he worked for the Daily Collegian, so I'm assuming he was a Penn Stater.
Darren, you will be glad to know. He's a Penn State grad.
Yes, he is.
That's right.
Belisario School of Communications represent.
Oh man. Well,
That's right.
you two get along great. We'll have to get him on the show here soon.
Yep.
We'll get him on here very soon, as a matter of fact. We'll work on that. Gene, could you facilitate for us?
I probably could.
We would appreciate that. Gene, we always appreciate you, my friend. It's great to have you back. And we look forward to talking to you again next week. Can't wait for all the fan bases in South Carolina to start getting mad at you coming up this Sunday.
Well, thanks a lot,
Hey,
John.
here's the good news though. You got Coastal in this thing now. They're used to winning 10 and 11 games a year, Gene. Don't short them. You short them, you're going to have somebody else ticked off at you.
That's right. And you do not want a ticked off Chanticleer, I'll tell you that.
No.
You're going to have all kinds of chickens headed your way.
Good luck, Mom.
Be careful. Be careful. Thanks, Gene. See you.
Thanks, guys.
There you go, Gene Sapakoff of the Post and Courier. That's it. We're out of here. That's it. We're done. Moving on. Hopefully that weather's moving on too. Thanks to Mike and Cory and Gene and Darren and Tyler, Paul, Craig, all of you. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you. Tomorrow, JC Sherbert, Keith Alsep, rolling right along. Can't wait. Been a good, fun day around here.
It has.
Hop in my Volkswagen Atlas and drive to the liquor store. I'm just kidding. It's only Tuesday. I have to wait till Thursday now. Football.
I mean, there's no rule on that.
No. That's for another day, my friend. We appreciate it. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, returns tomorrow at noon. We'll see you then.